those early days were emotionally very draining. Not knowing, not being able to control anything, not even being able to sort out in your mind how you're going to cope, because you just didn't know, and you knew nobody else knew either. I mean, I think it was scary for everyone, but it was more scary because no one knew whether we would be okay if we got it. So it just heightened it. And I think it then made my family really worried because, they just thought, oh, it's bad enough if you get it, but if mum gets it, that might be the end. So those first, well, probably a few months really, were very difficult, were very scary. And then the family were able to go out for walks, and I remember that very clearly. They'd all go out for a walk, and I felt like a prisoner because I was just walking around my garden, because they said you really must get some fresh air, you really must go out. I can't walk very far anyway, so I couldn't have done the walks with them, but just being told you shouldn't even be out is quite scary in itself. And I remember our next door neighbour, he was quite vulnerable as well. And so often, either in the mornings or the afternoons, we would be walking in the garden, just walking around it like in circles. And it would be, hello, and just walking around. And I remember those days quite clearly. And I remember that feeling of upset that I couldn't even walk out of my own house. Yeah, definitely scary. That was the biggest one. Scared like you've never been scared before, really. Emotionally draining, actually, because the emotions you would get were just loads of different ones, and you just, even though you couldn't do anything about it, you just felt emotionally drained, and unhappy. I think unhappy, really quite miserable. It changed because you knew you could go out, but you actually didn't really want to go out. I was very still scared. I still had my shopping delivered. My son was still taking his clothes off, putting them by the washing machine, and because nothing had really been ruled in or ruled out, even at that stage. So everything was like a bubble. You were very conscious of everything. We did manage to go down to Cornwall. We were still reining in everything. We didn't feel that we could take risks. We still felt little bubbles, yeah. Everything was aimed at Christmas, really, but we knew, because my dad's vulnerable and my mum's over 75, so with him vulnerable and her over 75, we knew that we weren't going to have a normal Christmas anyway, even though they were saying at that stage, even where we were, you could, and then right near to the knockings, they said you couldn't, but we had prepared ourselves for that. We went, my dad set up a gazebo in his garden, and we used to go down quite regularly to his gazebo and sit outside. He even bought an outside heater to warm the area up so we didn't get cold. But we would just go literally in as many layers, hats, scarves and whatever. I had a big sign on the door from the PH Association saying, someone's vulnerable here, please, knock, leave stuff at the door and then walk away and whatever. And, all our food, my husband would bring it in and he would clean it down, and then only when it was clean would I put it away. So, yeah, we were back to doing all those things. I was very lucky that I managed to get a vaccine at the end of January. We had to go up into London to St Thomas's Hospital. But yeah, I managed to get one, and because he was there and they had some left over, they gave him a vaccine. But even with that vaccine, we were still, it still didn't feel right. Well, actually, I had my fourth vaccine in February this year, 2022. And 3 weeks later, I actually caught COVID. And, it was really scary to even though you knew you'd had your vaccines and you knew that there were things that they could give you. And they kept saying to me, you are so lucky you had your vaccine 3 weeks ago. You couldn't be more protected than that because it's kicked in and it's fresh. And I had it and I had it bad. But after that, things did sort of change for me because where I would go out and I just literally wouldn't hug, wouldn't touch, wouldn't go near people, once I knew I'd had it, I did feel this sort of safety net around me that I could do more things now. I had not did I only did I have 4 injections, but I'd actually had COVID as well. So I did start to do things. It was the first time I went shopping in 2 years, and that was a real surreal experience because you were there and you wanted to be there, but you were still worried. Still, you still had your mask on. You were still keeping away from people. My specialist PH team, I've always felt are there. They're at the end of the phone, so that's brilliant. I've done many Zoom calls, so they weren't ever reduced in number. They were still 3 monthly. They were just on a Zoom. They suggested we don't have the blood test every month, which we were having because of the medication. So they said that could go to 3 monthly. But I remember that being scary, just having to go to my doctor's surgery just for my blood test. When I knew everyone would be doing everything they could for me to make me safe. But I remember thinking, this is really scary. Yeah. Positives from the last couple of years have been we all had dinner as a family at the same time, eating together, and that was lovely. We played lots of cards as a family, which we didn't really do before, just because everyone was never in at the same time. The other positive thing is that from 3 monthly blood tests, we now only have one. So, and that's carried on. I do like the warmth that we felt, although you forget the scary bit, the warmth of the family at that time. I think that I would maybe not have been so set in not doing anything. I think, there would have been smaller risks I would have taken, because I just think, why didn't I take those risks? But then hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? The hardest part of the pandemic for me has been the feeling of the loss of all the things I could have done and I wanted to do, but I couldn't do. I think, if you sit down and you think about it, it can make you quite sad, really.